Hello, hello. Hope you're doing okay today. Let me know if you can hear things okay, and then we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Let me know where you're watching from too in the chat, and you can let me know what time it is there if you want to as well, so I don't have to do the mental math. But usually since I start fairly early for the West Coast in the U.S., I usually don't get a whole lot of people from the U.S., which is just fine. But I'd love to know where you're watching from. Like I said, if somebody could just ping me in the chat to let me know that stuff's coming through okay. I think it looks like everything's good on my end, but that's not always the case, and I don't want to jump right in if we've got issues. So I'm excited to get started with this today. We're going to make this more of a beginner tutorial, just kind of start from the beginning how I would do this and then kind of go from there. But hey, welcome. Hi from the UK. Thanks for joining. Okay, I'm going to call that good enough to go ahead and get started then. All right, let me go ahead and transition over. Good to see you officially, and we're going to go ahead and jump right in. I've got the project pulled up here, and you can grab a link to this in the description if you want. This is a designer who I think did like 1,000, 1,500 challenges daily, something like that. So, which I thought was great. Voice is a bit low. Okay, let me see if I can pump it up just a touch. Hopefully that's better. Hi from Morocco. Bosnia, welcome. France. Everything else is okay? Okay, great. All right, well, thanks so much for joining. It's great to see you all here today. Like I said, we're going to try to keep this more of a beginner stream. And so let's go ahead and jump in. I forgot there is a Figma file here. I didn't download it in. The only thing I've done in prep, I try to do these things live because in many ways it's kind of like a test of what I actually know and what I don't know. So that's what I try to do. Hey, you're welcome. Navik, either way, both. So I haven't done a lot of thinking ahead of time, but my kind of the thought process is what we'll go through today. So I want to focus primarily on the UI side of stuff, so the HTML and the CSS, but I'm going to also use this as an example just to play around with JavaScript itself. If I was doing something like this, it would probably be with React, but I think in this case we'll go ahead and use, I really want to use Astro, but we're going to try to stick with just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Hey, welcome. If anyone has a very strong opinion in the chat, you can let me know as well, but that's what we'll be going with. So let's go ahead and get a project up and running, and I'm just going to do, like I said, vanilla JavaScript, and we'll kind of load this from the back end. We might actually have a local server just to kind of mimic what you might have in real life. But let's come over here, and I'm just going to pm create v.latest, and here we'll go with, what was this thing called? Like users list daily UI or something like that. So let's go ahead and get that started. Oh, you while exercising. Nice. All right, lift those weights. I'm not sure I'm going to be very motivational for you, but I'm here for you. Vanilla. Let's do that. Let's just stick with JavaScript to keep it simple. I'm going to cd users list, and then we'll do pm install. I think these kinds of tests are really, really helpful. I'm going to go ahead and get this started up in my VS Code. So let me switch over here just so I can do it quickly. I don't remember exactly what I have showing right now, so just to make it easier on myself. Oh, I opened that the wrong profile. Let's try again. I think it is really important to keep testing yourself over and over again, and so even if you're a more experienced dev, these kinds of tests, especially just kind of doing it live like this, I think for me, I find really, really helpful. You don't have to record yourself. You can just do it obviously live and talk through it. But I think that's really, really been very, very instructive for me about what I actually know, because you usually feel like, hey, I already know this stuff. But then when you do it, you're like, okay, I didn't know it as well as I thought I did. And that's really what I'm trying to test. Hey, welcome, Eddie. Thanks for joining. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And you can see I've got the project over this way. I've got a very basic Vite app going here. So we can go ahead and open, I'll just do it the local terminal right here, although I usually use Warp just to make it easier on us here. So let's do npm, I think it's pm, right? Run dev, and then we'll get this up and running at 5173. Right there. Okay, there we go. We've got a very basic Vite counter, and we're just going to use vanilla JavaScript. Now, the way that Vite works by default is you get all this stuff dumped directly inside here via this main.js app, which will actually load your style and then actually dump in all this HTML as well. So we'll probably just kind of do more of a traditional approach where we don't have all this happening. We'll just have the main just for any actual JavaScript we're using. So let's go ahead and get rid of, I guess, everything in here. And we'll just say like, hello from main. And then inside here, we should have that showing up down here. Hello from main. Okay, good. So that's working. And let's go ahead and get rid of this. We don't need that. And then we'll pull in our link to our CSS. And that should pull in style.css. Okay, so that's working. And we'll get some other stuff going here in a second. Let's go ahead and come back here though. And we need to actually build out this data. So let's maybe just to make it easier to work with, I'm going to grab a picture of this. And that's fine. Let's go ahead and just kind of mark this up. So I'll come over here. Looks like I got this new Apple screensaver going. So let me zoom in just a touch to make that a little easier to see. And let's come in here. So when I see something like this, the first thing I'm going to do, again, just kind of thinking from a beginner's perspective, is break all this up into little components. So for instance, this is technically its own little component here. And then this would be together with it, right? So you've got these two sections here, something like that. And then you've got each of these are technically their own components, but just to simplify it, we've got a list of components here. And then this is its own little component here, right? So we've got a group here that's kind of vertically spaced up and down. Then we've got a group here that's horizontally spaced, and the two are spaced out from each other. So that already tells me some stuff about how I might structure this, but at least I kind of know what I need to build out. So I've got 5 buttons, got a search bar, and I've got, a header tag or something. Okay, then when I come inside here, we've obviously got a single component, but the single component has 2 sides to it, right? So if I come here, it's got this side right here, over here with the image, and then it's got all this text over here. The text obviously is stacked as well, so you've got a stack here, stack here, stack here, and this one is kind of its own little wrapped section that can wrap infinitely as you add extra tags or whatever this happens to be. So as I'm thinking through this, I've got a button component. Here, we could also make this the same thing and just style it a little bit differently as we go, but I think just keep things simple, we'll keep them separate. We've got text, got images, and all this kind of stuff. So that's kind of what we're working with right now. So let's go ahead and maybe I'll just leave that off to the side, and that way we don't lose access to it. I'll zoom back out here. Okay, here we go. So we'll leave that there in case we need it, or maybe let's just drag it in here, and that way we can access it as needed. All right, so let's go ahead and then build out this data, and I'm not going to do this from scratch. I think I've got like something like 15 or so headshots I did grab ahead of time. Let's see. Looks like 12 headshots ahead of time, so that's the only thing I've done just so I didn't have to figure out images. I guess I could have downloaded the Figma file. That would help me with 6 of them at least, but I figured I wanted lots of them. Now, this doesn't make a ton of sense how the design works because there's no like signal that these are new users in any way other than clicking on that. And I'm not exactly sure what voters, editors, moderators, or reputation means. I'm guessing this is like a sorting function for voters, editors, moderators. Reputation is maybe filtering, or sorting, and the other 3 are filtering. I'm not really sure. Other 4 are filtering. So we might change up that. Let's go ahead though, and instead of doing this from scratch, I'm just going to ask ChatGPT to do this. But we need to structure it and tell it how we want it to think. So when I think through this, we're going to need an ID for the person. We'll need their first name and their last name, which I'll have as separate fields. We'll have the place that they're from. These different tags, it looks like clothes, stem, headshot, gadget, speed, winter. I'm not exactly sure what these are for. And then we've got some kind of like filtering mechanism. I don't think I'll do any sorting here. We'll just do filtering. And then we'll also use the search users to filter by name. So for reputation here, let's maybe change this up. All right. Perhaps we'll have new users and just do something like the last 7 days or something like that. So we can also have a date that they were, that they joined, and then maybe like a major status or role or something like that. So let's go ahead and kind of scaffold this out. So I need 12 data users in a JSON format like this. All right, and then let's go ahead and I don't know if you can see this very well. Let me zoom in. This might help. Let's get just enough so I can see this one over here. So each of these should be an object. And what I want is, let's do an ID that's whatever. We're going to have, I guess let's have a name like this. And then we'll have another object inside of here. And here we'll have first. And then we'll have like Jim or something. Last. Whatever. All right, and we'll come down here. What else do we need? So we need a list of like tags or something like that. So this itself will just be an array. We'll have like tag 1, tag 2. Maybe I should give these real examples. So like, it looks like they have like clothes. I'm not sure what that's about. Stem, frames, whatever. All right, what else do we have? We have a headshot. And this will be, we'll just point it to like images head1.jpg, something like that. What else do we need? Location. And here we could say Cincinnati, Ohio. That's what that stands for. And then what else do we have here? We said we wanted some kind of major category and also a date that they joined. So we could be like a starting date or date joined. How about that? Since this is some kind of like user board. And here, I'm guessing, what if I did just something like, I guess I don't remember how I need to format this. Let's do it like this. All right, so that's the way I'm writing that. At least that's January or December, not January, November 11th. I know it's January in some places. Can I try the extension Heliquar? Maybe sometime. I probably won't get derailed on the stream, but I'll try to look it up afterwards. Thanks for the suggestion. And always happy to answer questions and stuff while I'm streaming too. These are not crazy professional polished things. It's just me coding in the morning like I usually do, just turning the camera on essentially and having you all join me. So the other thing we wanted to have is some kind of like role or status or something like that. So I don't really like these reputation voters, editors, because they don't make sense, or moderators. So what if we just did like area of the company or something like this? So it could be like, I don't know, let's just call it area. And we'll have like design, coding, something. So I think that's pretty much what I need. So yeah, put all of them in, them in an array. This is JavaScript. Script, by the way. All right. So we're going to call that good, and hopefully they give me some, hey, technology, art, design. We've got all kinds of things. John Doe, Sarah Johnson. Repeat, no, I want you to give that to me. Please give me all 12. I realize I can do it myself. That's why we ask the computers to do this stuff for us. We don't want to do. Okay, this app, by the way, is just something called Raycast, and I happen to have the ChatGPT, like the pro version, which I think was like $8 a month. So this is my only access right now to ChatGPT. That's just how I've done it. But here we're going to have a db.json file, and I'll just dump all this in here. Uh-oh. Prettier doesn't like it because, well, it's because this is not even JSON. All right. I need this in JSON. And we'll grab this and add that in there. So thinking through kind of how this data is structured is part of it. And, you know, I'm sure there's a better way to do some of this, but that's a lot of the the work and kind of having a UI that's fun to, or something that's fun to work with. But okay, so now that we've got this, let's go ahead and I'm going to open up another terminal here. And I have something called, what is it called? JSON server. So JSON server right here. And this is already installed globally on my machine. But what this will let us do, and you can see a lot of people use it, but what it'll let us do is start up a server. So you give it something like this, and it looks like I need to give it like this structure here. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll call this like users. Oops. Users like this. And then we'll add all this inside here. Hopefully you can see what I did there. So just mimicking this style here. And then I did call it db.json. So I should be able to just come in here now since I have it globally on my machine and start up this local server. And then it will basically give us an endpoint like this. So it'll actually read what we have, and you can see how it already says we have users. So it knows we have this, and now I just get this as if it were some kind of, actual server. So now that we've got that, we can actually start building this UI out from scratch. So the way I like to think about doing this is, let me first of all add these images. I think the way Vite works is this is the base of your server is your public. So let's come in here and add images like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag in the 12 images I had prepared ahead of time like this. And hopefully we did that right. So I randomly grabbed them off Unsplash last night when I thought about doing this. Okay, so now that I've got that going, I can actually access that endpoint, and you can write to it, you can remove stuff, you can read to it, read from it, all that kind of stuff. All right, let's come over here. Make sure I can see anything. I don't think anyone said anything. Okay. Okay, so with this as our kind of endpoint, what we're loading in, what I want to do is kind of build out the core of the UI to start with, and we'll have it just a blank spot right now for the users. So let's get rid of this. And let's come over here. What's going on here? Reload. I can't stand like badges and stuff, so sorry for the OCD, but here's our file we worked with earlier. So let's go ahead and build kind of this top section. And we've got technology, art, looks like, let's look at the actual file. It's easier to look at this area. So we've got art, photography, music, film, fashion, fitness. Okay, so we're not gonna have anybody overlapping right now. So let's come in here and say like coding or something like that. And we'll add this for the bottom several here. Culinary, wow. Look at these users. They're so diverse. Coding, and then let's change up. Let's have this one be like design. And we'll add this for lots of these people. And then maybe let's do, I don't know, marketing or something. Technology. Okay, I think that's everyone. And if I save this here, you're going to notice that it already updated over here because that's a live kind of server endpoint. So let's go ahead and do that top section. Normally this would be in like components depending on the framework you're building. And since we just have plain old HTML and CSS and JavaScript, we're just going to build it out from scratch here. So inside here, we'll probably have some kind of main tag. And this main tag, we'll push everything kind of to the center. We'll have a cap on it for how big it should be and all that kind of stuff in a second. But remember, we've got those sections we talked about. So if I come back over here, we've got this whole top section and this whole bottom section too, are these kind of two major groups. So up top, we could say something like the search and filter bar or whatever you want to call that. So I'm just going to make this, I think, just I guess a section. I guess the whole thing should probably be this section. So probably the main pushes to this section. And then here, the way you can make this accessible to screen readers, and I'll try to remember to show you this in a second, is you can say aria labeled by, and then you can point it to the ID of a header inside of it that explains kind of what the thing's about, and that will give that region a name. Otherwise, if you have a section, it doesn't do anything different from a div. It's just a div, essentially, until you actually point it in this way. At least that's my understanding. So let's have this called users. I forget what the actual title was. Was it users? Yeah. So then we want an H2 inside here, which probably be an H1 if this is the only thing on the page, but I'm assuming it's not. And this ID would be users. So if I come in here, I can give this whatever I want. Let's call it users for now. How about users 1, just to show the difference here. And if I come over this way and I open up the dev tools, the Chrome dev tools, I should be able to come into my elements tab, and I've got this accessibility thing enabled. If you hit Command Shift and P, you can search for accessibility, show accessibility right here. And that's what I've got. So if I click on this, you'll notice that this region is titled users 1 because this ID users has this as its text content. So I could say like pizza or whatever, and it would be pizza. And it's just using that to name this as a separate kind of region. And then you'll notice it has a heading pizza, here's the static text, all this kind of stuff. But this is how it's going to look to a screen reader. So that's why you would do that. Okay, so again, just kind of sticking with the basics of how to set this up. We want to do it in a way that's accessible. So this was users is how it actually was. And remember that we had kind of two sections in here. So as we broke this up, this is its own section. So we need this search bar to be another section here. So let's go ahead and just have this as a form for now, because we might even have time to style this. Probably not, but with the speed I'm going at here, but search like that. And then all this needs to be wrapped in its own little kind of section so it can stack. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll wrap that in a div. And I just remapped the whatever that is wrap to with abbreviations to the hyper key, which is caps lock turned into shift, control, option, and command, which I said all in the wrong order, but and then the left square bracket. So that's what I've done just to make it quicker. Then remember on the right side, we've got all these buttons over this way. So reputation, new users, except we've changed that around. So I think what we'll do is instead of having new users at the same level as those other filters, that doesn't really make sense from a UI perspective. And again, we're kind of loosely going off this design, which I think is honestly really good when you're learning. Like never just do exactly what it is unless you're trying to learn how to be pixel perfect. What you want to do is take something and then say, okay, like I want to add one extra thing to it. So I think what we'll do is have like some kind of toggle that says show new users only or something like that. And then here we'll have like an all and all the other ones, you know, the design, marketing, and coding or whatever. So this will all be in a section here, and these will all be buttons. So for right now, we'll just say button, and then we know something's there. Okay, so this is this kind of top section here, which now needs to be kind of all wrapped in its own section, right? Remember, this whole top section is separate from the bottom section. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to grab all this again, hit my shortcut, and we'll wrap this with an abbreviation. Right now, we'll just say div. And maybe so we can remember what this is, we'll just say top. All right, then we've got the bottom. So we'll say div dot, you can actually just do dot, not button, but bottom. Also not bottom, but bottom. And then here's where we're going to have the users. Okay, so we've at least got that set. Let's go ahead and work on some basic styling. And once again, we're going to think through this kind of in stages. So as I look through this, again, we'll probably loosely follow this design and also kind of make up a lot of our own stuff. We've got several different colors, and I think they actually gave us some colors, so we may not have to come up with those. Yeah, so we'll grab these colors here. I'm not sure where these browns come into play, because I definitely don't see these anywhere, unless I'm missing it. I see the blue, so that's good. So we've got colors to think about. We've also got different typography. So if I were to break this thing back out, oops. So if I were to break this thing back out into its own thing, we could mark this up a little bit more. But we've got this size, this size, this size. So you see how like we're kind of just thinking through components. So when it comes to typography, we're going to think through sizes. We're going to think through weights. So this is a different weight. This is a different weight. This is a different size and weight. It looks smaller than this. A different color as well. So we've got different variations we need to think through. So let's maybe think typography first and kind of go from there. So if I were to capture this again, let's mark this up afresh from the other one. And now we'll add a couple things to it. So let's go ahead and we've got like large size. This is hard to see. Let's change this to something else. All right, so my typography here will be my large size right here. I've got, we're going to call this my medium. What else do we have? This will be small, and I'm going to call this small as well, just to kind of keep track of all this. So we've got large here, medium. Let's keep this as small. I don't know if it actually is or not, so that we basically will have three sizes to think through. All right, and then we've got obviously 2 weights. We've got like bold up here, and then everything else is not bold, right? But we'll call those bold as well. All right, so that's kind of what we're going to think through when we build this thing out. So let's come back over here, zoom back out. Let's come over to my CSS, and let's go ahead and get rid of, do we want to keep all this? Let's get rid of that at least, and we'll get rid of everything down here. And maybe let's also do a basic reset. So before, box sizing, a border box, and then we'll do margin 0 and padding 0. I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, so we're restarting these. I usually reset these to 0 because I try to mostly work in grid and flex, and or especially grid, and let the parent kind of control everything. So that's what I typically do, but you may not like that extreme measure there. So back over this way, you can see we've gotten rid of a lot of things. We'll just use enter here. I don't know what font they're using. I think that's like Merriweather or something, but we'll just use what we're using. Let's go ahead though and set up a couple other things. So we're going to have this as all the original stuff. That's fine. I will probably keep, maybe move this to more to like to 1.4. But let's go ahead and set up some, let's go ahead and set up some colors here. All right, so when I think through these colors, let's go ahead and grab these, and I'm going to add this to pasteboard here. Let's grab this, this, and this. I don't see any of these brown ones, so we're not going to worry about those. And let's come back up here just to kind of think through this. So we've got our white color, our background color. So let's go ahead and set this. And honestly, I'd probably have like a toggle for light and dark mode. We probably shouldn't set that up today. But what we'll do is just add these in kind of one after the other. That's probably my light background, so this might be my muted. And then we'll have a background up here that's lighter, which we'll get around to changing in a second. And then we'll have our accent color, whatever that happens to be. And then something, I don't remember what this was. So, all right. So we'll have this be our text color. So I usually name it something like background text instead of light dark, because when you get around to adding theming, you don't want to have to contend with like dark mode is now light mode, and or dark now means light in dark mode or whatever. All right, so let's go ahead and also change these to HSL. So if you click on this little thing in VS Code, actually I think you just have to hover, and then you can click this top bar. It'll actually change it for you. And I like working with HSL. Eventually LCH will be better, but right now with browser support still being kind of low, I'd rather do that. If you've seen my coding before, I also typically do this where I remove the HSL wrapper, and that gives you a little bit more flexibility. The other thing I'm going to want to do is probably set a hue variable here, and we'll do 222, and then we'll replace this with var of hue, and that way we can kind of have the entire thing be themed. I'll do the same thing here because 19 is not going to be that different from 222. Now what we can do is use this and use it in our actual body. So if I were to come in here, take our body and set the background color to something like HSL wrapped around my variable of, let's do text. You're going to see that if I jump back over this way, it's all dark. Now the reason I don't wrap it in HSL up here is so that while I'm invoking it down this way, I can just add like 0.2 and I get transparency without having to do a lot of extra work. Obviously, if you have like a full design system where you don't have to do anything on the fly, you wouldn't do this. But for me, most of the time this is best because it gives me kind of the flexibility I need and fits most of my needs. The other thing is by doing everything here in dark mode, or in dark mode, by doing everything here with this HSL, it's a lot easier to manipulate these values. So for instance, the actual background of everything, I probably want to be almost white. So I could come in here and add background like this. And then just around, I don't think I gave this thing, I just gave it this Arial labeled by users, but I should probably give it maybe a class as well. Well, this is the only thing that's going to ever have this. So we'll use this as its class. Another advantage of using semantic HTML is that you can do that. So if I come in here and now I add this as my muted, you should see it kind of stand off in the background, and that's what we're looking for. Maybe I actually have, maybe this needs to be slightly less intense too, and you can just do that there. Although that looks like the background should be muted and this should be white. So maybe that's what I should do. Muted, pay attention to the design a little bit at least. All right, just like that. So that's what I typically like to do. And then I just have a little shortcut in VS Code where if you do comma HSL, it just wraps it and puts your cursor there. So I don't remember if I've done that in VS Code or another shortcut application, but yeah. How do you make a dynamic route for a single page product with HTML like Next.js have dynamic route? I'm not sure I understand. How to make dynamic route for a single page product page in HTML like Next.js have a dynamic route. Do you mind trying to rephrase that? I may just be misunderstanding you. All right, so with that said, we've got our colors essentially working. The other thing I will want to do is set our color, which is our text color here, to the text right here. Now this would be really easy for dark mode if we wanted to, so maybe we should just get distracted. If you don't tell anyone, I won't. But if we come in here to our light, now these are basically going to be our default light colors. And what we can do is come down here and set like our defaults or whatever would be our lights. So I'm going to capture all this. And this might seem convoluted at first, but it makes it really, really easy to theme. If I get rid of all these, like this, now what I can do is point all these somewhere. So this would be pointed to my var of hue light. Like that. Although I don't think I need the hue. Yeah, so I can just come in here and let's do the var of background light. And we'll do the same thing this whole way through. What is going on here? And then essentially what this will do, if I can get this to work, we'll do muted, is allow me to quickly switch over to dark mode if I wanted to. We'll do text here. So right now this should look the same, where these are basically going to point up to these. Right? Does that make sense? And then we'll use them down this way. Let's just make sure this is working. var muted should point to, okay, this is not how this works. Let's come in here, goodness, and change this to light like this, and light and light. Okay. Text light. What am I messing up here? I'm not sure where these are double. Var muted. What did I just mess up trying to show you this thing? So this should point to my background light, which it does. Right? Now I'm pointing to this. What did I mess up? I'm not sure what I messed up here. 29, just to see if it changed. No? Okay. Let's see what's going on in the DevTools. Since we're already committed to it and just having fun. Text light. Text light. That's literally this. Let me look at the chat. Hue light. Oh. This needs to point to hue. Thank you. All right. Helps to have guardian angels watching over you. Is that what a chat is, I think? Okay, so now we've got this set up. The nice thing is it's very easy to set up default light colors as well. Dark. Names are wrong. Hi, Christina. They're asking whether dynamic routing is supported in plain HTML. Not to my knowledge, unless I'm misunderstanding you, but all right. So we're going to keep the hue the same, and maybe let's just pull this thing up. And the nice thing is this hue, we can just shift around as this, like to a red color, and suddenly everything is red. So that's why I set this up this way as well. Now what I can do is come in here, and I could switch all this stuff around however we want. So like, let's say that the background should now be really dark, and we need to change all these here to dark mode, like this. The muted could be something more intense. I don't know. We can just switch this around. Maybe let's do something less intense for dark mode here and put this up to like 95. Now what we can do is have a media query here, media screen, and dark mode media query, because I can't ever remember how to do things. There we go. Let's grab this. So when they prefer dark, all I have to do is switch these around. So I can pull this in here like this and have a new root down here. So this root is essentially the HTML. It's the document element. And so you're basically setting these variables for every single thing. So when this is all the case, I can switch these over to dark, and then it will start to use dark mode. So if I jump back over here and I switch my machine from light mode to dark mode, I think it is. Actually, what I need to do at first is also come up here and grab this. There you go. You saw it switch a second ago, but I'm going to also set these as my defaults right here so that this is color scheme light dark. And then once I get down here, I'll do color scheme of dark. So we'll do light here and dark. Can't we make a light or dark default? Okay, yeah. So we're setting these up here and we're not really using them yet. And it's basically here where we're actually selecting the first one, and then down here where we're going to actually use it in dark mode. So now you can see that this is dark mode. I didn't, name these brilliantly, but that's the idea. And that way, whatever system your machine's in, it will use that color scheme for you. So it's really easy once you set up colors this way to add multiple themes if you want to, and then you could use, instead of just like the user preference, you could also have some kind of data attribute. So you could just say if there's a data attribute on the HTML, something like data theme, like unicorn or something, if I can spell like this, then you can add, instead use text data theme, whatever. So you just copy this over, and you just want this after your media query so that it overrides the user's preference. And let's say we had like a unicorn, and then you can decide if that's light or dark. So if you had light mode, then what you could do is make a really ugly unicorn one up here. Not sure why we're into unicorns this morning, but default unicorn colors. And I don't know what these could be. This could be nasty. We could even change the hue around. All right, just to mess with everything. And now if I come in here to the data theme and I add that on here, let's see, let's do data theme equals unicorn, like that. It should pick up those colors instead. Let me just double check I didn't misspell everything. Didn't add these here. Okay, so now these should be pointing down to, let's add something crazy here too. Let's do like 301 or something. All right, so background unicorn, all this kind of stuff should point down to all these here. So if I have a data theme of unicorn on this HTML, it should actually take, I don't need to wrap this in root, but it should actually use those colors instead. And so once I type it right, you can see how that does that. So again, a really easy way to theme stuff. That's how I typically do stuff. And it's really flexible. I'll leave that in there in case you want to add your own little theme switch toggle, which we weren't going to do today, but such is life. Okay, so back to what we were trying to do. Let's get this thing in the center. So let's get the entire thing in the center to start with. And it's all, if I come back to the original design, kind of all going to be in the center there. And we'll use that blue background. And so for right now, we should probably also refresh to get rid of all that unicorn. And then let's put the main in the very center. Now, typically the easiest way to center stuff is just to set like a, I guess if we have the main here, we can do it on that. So we'll take the main is to set display grid. Eventually we need to get rid of this font thing that we were going to work on. And then we'll do a min height of 100 view height. You could also do DVH below here. And if something supports that, that will work. And then we'll do place items center. And this will put everything in the very center of the page. And in this case, the thing we're putting in the center of the page is this section with ARIA labeled by users. Now what we're going to do is finally work on our typography here. So you might remember that we went through all the pain and struggle of putting this together over here where we had small, large, and medium font sizes. And then we also had bold and normal font weights. So that's what we're going to do now. Let's come back over here. And let's go ahead and declare kind of another section. So that was our colors. In this root of the document, we'll also have typography. And there are a bunch of different ways to do this. There's a site I really like called utopia.fyi that gives you scaled fonts out of the box. And there, obviously you can hand roll these too, but basically what it's doing here is saying, hey, we're going to use the clamp, which gives you, this is the smallest it will ever allow it to be. This is the ideal it's trying to be. And you can see that it calculates both off view width and then gives you kind of enough rem to make sure that it's visible. And then this is the largest we're ever going to allow this to be. So I think that's a really useful way to to work with this, and it's fairly well supported. You can also set like the minimum for each of these for like the minimum viewport and the maximum viewport. So I think I'm good with that, and we'll just copy this. Is there like a copy button somewhere? I don't know. So we'll just grab this over here, and again, we're not like crazy following the exact design perfectly. Hopefully you're okay with that. With this said, our small is kind of like a normal font size, so maybe we use something more like this. So let's just say like font size of small, and here we'll have font size. Actually, let's maybe jump one. So we'll go font size medium, and let's jump one more, and we'll go font size of large. All right, and then we'll get rid of all the rest of these. And now all we have to do is come over here and add that here. So we could say font size of our, I think we can get rid of this too. I don't need this anymore. We'll say font size of medium for the body. So if we come over here, you should see that it actually changed my font sizes there. Now, as I shrink, it'll actually shrink with me. As I get bigger, it'll get bigger with me. It's probably a little bit easier to see on a large font size. That should, maybe I should just go to the DevTools here. Should shrink and get bigger as the viewport does. You can see how the actual font is changing there. That's the beauty of using Clamp. Utopia is awesome, yeah. All right, Codium VS Code extension. Maybe I'll look into it later. All right, so we've got those basic things set up. We should also set up our font sizes as well, our font weights. So we'll go font weight of bold will be bold, and then we'll do font weight of, how about let's just do regular. Actually, I think maybe let's actually give this an assigned value. So we'll say like 600, something like that. So I should be able to come inside here now and say font weight of our font weight, and then we're going to go for bold. Now, as you look through here, you can see that I'm using a lot of CSS variables, and while it takes a lot to set up to start with, you get all the benefit of actually theming stuff and then just kind of selecting from your pre-designed design system at that point. The other thing we can do here is if you don't want to set all this up yourself, then use my favorite CSS thing, which is OpenProps. OpenProps essentially gives you all of these by default, but they're just CSS variables. So if I come down here, like for instance, you've got gradients, you've got shadows, and it's giving you these as CSS variables, shadow 1 through 6, and there's even a just-in-time post CSS plugin where you can just use the ones you want and get rid of all the other ones. You know, none of the other ones compile or end up in your finished site. So you can get these kind of by default. You don't have to do a lot for them. You can obviously alter them however you want. So I usually use OpenProps to set up this theming system for my site, and then I write my own CSS after that. But I'm using kind of OpenProps as the building blocks. So essentially what we're doing is we're creating like Lego bricks here, and then we're going to use the Lego bricks to build the things we want. So even though it takes a little bit of time to make the Lego bricks to start with, when you're done, everything looks like it belongs, rather than like you were like me and you just grabbed random bricks as a kid and built whatever you wanted. So that's what we're kind of trying to think through. All right, so we've got our sizes set up. We've got our font weights set up. Now we've got basic colors kind of going. Let's go ahead and think through spacing. So let's come back over here, and we've got the same kind of thing to think through. Maybe let's take a fresh design rather than marking the other one up, because we already know we've got what we've got over here. If we come back here to the spacing and I zoom back in here for us, let's think through the different spacings we'll need. So I grab this right here, and you can see we've got like micro spacings like right here. Wow, that's kind of big. So let's change that to there. Okay, so we've got these little tiny spacings right here, right? We've got spacing here. We've got spacing between these cards as well. We've got spacing vertically. So you can see how we've got all these little spots we need to account for. And again, if we think through this as like little Lego bricks, we've got to build out this structure so that we can use it all throughout the design. At least that's kind of how I think when I see something like this. Obviously, the biggest spacing is right here. We've also got this, which is probably dynamic as the viewport changes. This needs to flex and shrink. So that's another thing to think through. So if we were to kind of categorize these, I'm going to call, let's see, I'm going to call this one and this one. Let's call this something like small. We've also got really micro ones that I'm not sure I'm going to do a whole lot with here, but for instance, like this right here. Let's see, those are not even close to the same size. What was I thinking? All right, How about just that? All right. And then we'll also have another one down here to kind of point to the same thing. So those seem like kind of small. This is going to be our dynamic one. So we won't super worry about that right now. We're going to call this medium. And you can print this out in a piece of paper and do this if you want. I honestly, I think that's helpful if you don't have a tool like CleanShot X, which is what I'm marking up here, or you could just use the screenshotting tool. And I think whatever annotations come with Mac or Windows has the same kind of stuff, or open it up in Paint. We can also look and see that small looks like it's about here as well. And honestly, probably maybe these as well in between all those stacks. We've got extra small right here. So let's have an extra small arrow just to emphasize it. Extra small. We're going to call this our large. So we're going to need at least 4. But that's kind of what we're doing structurally, what we're thinking through. So with all that said, I'm not going to save this, and it doesn't need to be precious. But let's go ahead and get rid of this. In fact, now what we're going to do is let's just go back to Utopia FY, because they've got the same thing for spacing, just so it's more dynamic. And you can obviously just hard code these as well. But you can see what it's doing is it's giving you a maximum and a minimum for each of these values. So for small, it's saying the smallest size will be 18, the largest it'll be is 20. So in other words, as the viewport changes, it'll actually shrink and flex and all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and use that same thing. And you can do this in a couple different ways. You can have it skip a generation, so it gets progressively quite a bit bigger on larger screens, or just kind of stick with it here. So we're going to go ahead and just grab this as well. And again, you can hard code all that if you want to yourself, but just for sake of time, since we took forever working on the theming, let's come in here. We're going to have some spacing. So again, here are our Lego blocks we're going to use here. And we don't need all these sizes, right? We just need extra small, small, medium, and large, just in case we need these. Let's go ahead and save them in case it's not quite big enough. So now what we can do is use these to actually build this whole thing out. So for now, we haven't gotten around to any of the actual styling yet for the buttons or all that kind of stuff. But now let's kind of space some of this stuff out. Now again, here's where maybe you'd say, okay, let's kind of create some more structure. We'll use our variables, create some structure to build from. So this top section here, I'm going to give this a class, and this will be grid. And what I'm going to do is just do these double dashes and then signify different sizes. So in this case, I do something probably like grid medium, I think, if I remember right, the way we had that set up. And now what we're going to do is come down here, and maybe, I guess we'll do below our main. We'll have some utilities. And obviously, if you're using SAS or something where you can dynamically generate these, that would be, faster than what we're about to do, but it's not that much work. So we'll say display grid, and then gap will be my var of space medium. Or small, right? I guess we need extra small first. So extra small. And let me go ahead and change these to small, because that's how I am probably going to type them by default, because that's how I usually set my stuff up. Okay, so with that said, now all we have to do is copy this down a bunch of times. Well, why don't we change this to actually look like var? All right, so let's change this down a bunch of times, and we're going to grab this, hit Command D to grab both of those, and change that to small. We'll go medium. And large. So that's all we needed there. And we can do the same thing for flex as well. So this just gives us some basic stuff. So if that's all we need, which is honestly a lot of times what I end up doing, then I just have to do grid small on a wrapper container, and it kind of takes care of everything. So we'll come in here, and I'm going to grab flex for all these as well in case we need flex utilities the same kind of way. Now obviously you can do some kind of purge after your build if you want to strip all these out that you don't end up using. That's just fine. The other thing I'm going to do, just to kind of keep consistent, is come in here and add a double dash to all these, because I think that's how I've done the rest of them, although it looks like it didn't for my colors, so joke's on me. But let's go ahead and do space whatever, and I'll just grab all of these, and we'll add a double dash there. Okay, so now what I can do, you can see how it's already kind of giving us the space automatically. Now maybe that was too big. The nice thing is I can just come back here and say small, and it shrinks it. So really easy to work with. All right, so I've got this user section and the form below. That's what is being separated right here. It seems like a ton of line height. Just the form is, for some reason, got this top padding. It's probably something to do with something. All right, we'll fix that in a second. Over here, same thing. So we've got these flex elements, and I'm doing grid because grid stacks naturally up and down. Flex naturally goes left and right, and here we'd want these to wrap if they needed to anyhow, so it makes sense to me that these filter buttons should wrap. So we'll make this flex, and then we'll actually add a flex wrap as well. And again, you could add something like flex wrap class, and then this would just be flex wrap, wrap of wrap, and I could add that as well. So that's one way you can kind of stay in your HTML if you want to. So kind of Tailwind-esque if you used that before. So let's go ahead and grab this section here. We'll say class of flex, and then here would be extra small. So we're going to space those buttons extra small apart from each other. So we'll just say like stuff or whatever right here for now. And now you can see them hopefully kind of spaced out from each other. Now I can also add flex wrap on here as well, and I know that this is going to wrap if they ever needed to. So if we added like, I don't know, however many of those, and then we shrunk the viewport, they should start to wrap. And that's because I added this flex wrap class on it. All right, so back over here, we could dynamically load these from the data. That's probably what we should do. So maybe let's work on the buttons next, and then we'll work on the form and maybe speed up a touch. So let's go ahead and add on these buttons a class. So let's have like components or something like that here. And let's add like, oops, come on, sections. What am I doing? All right, but so let's go ahead and add a class to these, or at least this first one, a button. And I can obviously style this for the entire button, but typically you'd want to have some kind of flexibility here. So what we're going to do is I'll probably have an aria pressed equals true on a button when it is pressed, and we'll use that to style like the dark theme of the button here. So like if it's blue or not. Otherwise we'll have it basically as a transparent background. So for right now, maybe let's code it as if it were they were all that kind of size, or all depressed. We'll go from there. So let me come up top before I do that though, and we'll have a button reset, because buttons are stupid and you have to always do this. So we'll say font is inherit. This will inherit everything from the body, which it does not do by default. We'll say background is none. Border is none. What else do I want to change about this? Cursor is pointer. I don't know, all the dumb stuff. All right, so now that should be basically fixed for anything that is a button. For this first one though, that has the button class, well, let's start adding some stuff. So we've got a background color here. For right now, we're going to do accent, just to add that as the background of accent. We also want the color here to be different from our default, so we'll have this be our background. Now here's where those building blocks really come in handy. So we want some padding on this button. So I can just choose some of my spaces. So we can choose like extra small for up and down, maybe var space of small for left and right. And that didn't work. How about that? All right, there we go. So you can see how like now we've got those building blocks to play with, and we don't have to worry about like creating this on the fly. But again, it looks like a lot of gobbledygook here, but when you've built out all those building blocks, it's really easy to follow along with. Now we've got some kind of border radius, I think, on these. Oh no, I just killed it. Come back. We've got a border radius on these, so that might be another thing to think through. We've got two border, not two. So this is both this and this. They're going to be pill-shaped or circle-shaped, depending on kind of the aspect ratio of the image. And then we've got this small rounding here. Maybe that's another one. So maybe we've got three. So what do? We create more building blocks. That's what we do. I'm going to get rid of this, and we'll say like radii, radius. That's fine. All right, so here we could do something like rounded small. And once again, we could do something a little bit more dynamic, but I think in this case, like let's just do like 8 pixels, and then rounded medium. Maybe we do 12, and founded full. If I can be consistent here, will be 100 V max. Now V max says take either the width or the height, whatever one's bigger, and do the rounding off of that. So basically it will always be a perfect circle or a pill. It will basically always have full rounding that's capable, to it, whatever it happens to be. So if I came in here and said border radius, and I said something like var rounded full, then this should, if I come back over here, be as rounded as it possibly can be. In this case, I probably want medium. And we'll do on the form here, we'll do the rounded small. All right, anything else I need for this button? That color doesn't even look right. What's up with that? So let's come back over here. Give me colors that don't even work. That's not the color we're looking for. Muted light. No, that wasn't even it. Let's go like 72. We're going to go intense. We'll go 57. Ready for this? There we go. That's a color. Okay, so back down this way. Let's go ahead and add a couple different states. So let's do this. Let's add this class on another one here. We'll have this one be aria pressed equals true. And that way we can use that to actually style it the way we want to. So I'm going to grab this here. And I mean, technically we can do nesting now in CSS. So should we just do nesting? Yeah, we should. So we'll say aria pressed equals true. It's like not going to give us any kind of anything. I guess I also need an ampersand here, don't I? All right, so this one's pressed, this one's not pressed, and now we can see the difference between the two. All right, so this background is correct because we don't want anything there. The text should be fine. Let's give ourselves a little bit of space here just to kind of think through what we need. Now, when I come over here, I might also want like a hover state. So that's another thing I need to think through. So let's grab this here, and we'll change this to something like muted. I don't know, 0.5. So if I come in here, you can see how now I get this nice hover state. I also am going to want a focus state because who likes this? Not me. But it needs to be strong enough to be super visible. So first thing we're going to do is grab focus. We'll grab the outline color. We'll set this to transparent. Transparent. And the reason I'm doing the outline color and not changing to outline none is because what I want here is, as I come in here, what I want is this color to be nothing. And that way, screen readers, there's actually a mode here. If I open up, what am I doing? Let's see, accessibility. What am I looking for? What is it called? Like enhance. It's something colors. Emulate forced colors. Is that it? Okay, so I think maybe that's it. Anyhow, basically, there's a setting in accessibility where somebody can change their system to basically look at all sites and make things way more. I think it's contrast. Let's check one more time since we're already wasting our time. Contrast. Emulate reduced contrast. Oh no, that's not what I want. Anyhow, there's a setting where you can change and it makes stuff more heavily contrasted, and that's what we're trying to avoid here. So anyhow. So focus state, we're going to change that to transparent, which I'm still getting some kind of outline here. But now what I want to do is change this around to where it's my own custom thing, just if it is focus visible. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We'll have a box shadow. And this might be another thing to set up here. I guess what we could do, how would we want to do this? Let me just set it like this. And then what we're going to do is set a local. Yeah, we'll set a local ring variable. I'll show you why I'm doing this in a second. And here, this will be my accent. Okay, so what we're going to do is come back up top and make this variable up this way. Let's do it next to our colors, I guess. No, let's not. Let's do it below it. We'll do box shadow. We'll have a ring. And yeah, let's do that. So what we need to do is we're going to set 2 circles around this button when it's focused. Bro just used Tailwind. Well, that's the thing. You definitely can, and I use Tailwind for a lot of projects when I work with other people. But you have there's way more longevity when you're writing your own stuff and you understand it. A lot of people write Tailwind don't understand CSS. So if you understand CSS, Tailwind's great. But especially because I'm trying to do this tutorial for beginners, like you have to understand how to use CSS. And if you don't, it doesn't really matter how good of a developer you are with Tailwind. You'll never be able to be as flexible with it. If you understand CSS, use whatever you want because it doesn't really matter because you understand the basics. So that's kind of the point of this stream, though, is for people who want to kind of think through this from the start. All right, so here we are. We've got this ring here. And what we're going to do is set like 2 rings around the side of this. So 0, 0, 0, so it's not going to be left, right, up, or down. It'll be exactly around it, but we do want to then set a, whatever it's called, like a distance from it. So we could do something like 4 pixels, or we could use a dynamic variable here if we wanted to. And then I'm going to set this to my var of let's do this. So let's set ring to accent. I think that's what we're going to do. So I'll come up here and wait, what did I do here? I think I messed this up. Border ring. So this can't be the same thing. So we'll say like ring color. How about that? Okay, and then what we're going to do is set this as the default. So let's get rid of this for now. I'll come back up here. And we'll set this ring accent like this. And then I can come in here and say ring color. So now if I come over here, you can see how I'm getting this single ring kind of around the outside of it. And I can increase this if I want to. So I could do like, I don't know, 6 pixels, something like that. And now you can see how that ring gets a little bit bigger as I go around it. The other thing I want is some kind of ring background probably as well. So let's set this ring background color. And by default, let's set this to our background. And now what I can do is change this to background. And then we'll have an outer ring outside of this. So let's do a comma, and you can add multiples of these. So we can do 4, and we can do 8. And here we've got an accent here. All right. Oops, not that. Ring color. So now you can see I've got this inner ring, that's this white color, that's the background, and the outer ring, that's this blue color, just when I tab to it. All right, so it's super clear still what this is. Obviously, this one has the default on it. In fact, this is a little clearer than the default because it's quite a bit bigger. I could set this a little bit smaller even if I wanted to. There we go. So it's even bigger now at this point. Now here's the thing, because I've set it up with these kind of local variables, variables can be scoped, and then now in this button, I can override those if I want to. So let me make sure I've got access to those on my clipboard. Then we'll come inside here, and let's just replace both of these. So what I could do here is say that this is like red, and this is green or something nasty. And now on this individual one, if I come in here, focus visible, let me make sure I did this right. Does this work like this? Sometimes you just have to laugh at yourself, because I think basically it's already dumping these in and I can't override them at this point, but I could be wrong. But it doesn't look like I'm wrong. Well, so much for my grand idea, but basically of switching these things up. But what you could do is have, I guess if you wanted to, you could have like a, if you had an ugly class on this as well, and then you had focus visible, you could have a separate thing that was box shadow ring ugly or something like that and dump that in there. So much for all that thinking, but it is more flexible setting it up the way we did. And so you could have multiple ones. So for instance, back in here, if I had a ring, like a secondary ring or something, secondary, then what we could do is come inside here and have those, just change those around and have ring secondary background, ring secondary, whatever. So that is an advantage of setting it up this way. The way we've done it though, this might as well just be accent or background. And this might as well just be accent like this. And we've got no advantage the way we set it up. I was thinking you could do that below, but I guess not. Or maybe I just messed something up. Okay. These also need to be wrapped. Like this. And same thing here. All right, there we go. So we got that back. So that's how we're going to set those up. And then that way, when we toggle whether or not stuff is ARIA pressed true, on or off, it will show this or not show this. We probably also want some kind of hover state. So we've got that there. But we probably want some kind of hover state for ARIA pressed true. So let's come over here. What we can do is say and hover. So if it is hovered, then let's just back off this background color a touch. And again, because we set up these building blocks to be flexible, now I can come in here and it basically shows that I can deselect this. You could also have like a disabled one, but we're not going to do that in this case. Okay, so just kind of showing you how to set up a whole system like this. And while you can definitely use some kind of system, a lot of times if you're going somewhere, they're going to require that you fit into their system, now that you bring whatever CSS favorite tool you have. And so thinking through how to set up a system will help you adapt to any system. And so hopefully this has been a help for you just kind of thinking through this. All right, button true. Let's go ahead and add this as well. Class button. Those are all set up next to each other. Now the other thing to think through here is that this whole top section, I can give it this top, that's fine, but I also can give it like flex of large, and it should now stack these against each other. Now we've got other things to worry about, like whether or not it's how it's aligned, right? That's another thing to think through. So what we can do is just take this top section here and start doing that custom stuff just for this top section. So just for this, I could say something like align items of center. Yeah, you're right. You can do that where you type -- FS and then it will autocomplete. I just always forget, so sorry. Let's say flex end, because I think eventually that's what we're going to do, right? Because we want the form over there. Let's do that, and then we'll do a gap. We'll do flex, or what do we want? We want this to be justify content, space between. So space between will push these across each other as far as possible, and then as they need to, they can kind of get closer to each other, and then they'll eventually wrap like we've already looked at here. We've also got this flex extra small. I mean, that seems kind of big, huh? Doesn't it? That it's still that far apart from each other. Maybe it's just my font sizes are too big. So we could come back inside here and change this around if we wanted to. Let me just grab this in here again. Maybe let's just shrink these down a touch. So we'll come in here, grab this for a small. Maybe grab this for a medium. What do I have? The 1.9. So let's drop this down too. Let's make everything slightly smaller. There we go. All right. All right, back to what we were working on. There we go. So we've got these users. Let's now look at this form, and then we'll load this in dynamically, and then we might stop. I prefer just to kind of casually walk through this. Obviously, we get through it together, this design, fairly quickly, but it's the thinking that's the hard thing, not just the like mimicking how to quickly get a design up, because you can get a design up that's not very flexible or usable in the future, and that's what I'm trying to help avoid here. So we've got this form itself, and if I hit enter, it should automatically reload. So if I come in here and start typing, I hit enter, it'll send it to the page itself, and you see that's what it does here. So let's give this, I guess, an ID. We'll say like search form, and what we'll do is make them have to submit it, and that way it's not as they type it changes, but as they submit it, and then we'll change the URL param here. So we'll say search, search, that's fine. We should also probably have some kind of identifier, so I guess we could do like an ARIA label if we're not going to do an actual label that's visible, and just say like search for user. The other thing I might want to do though is, in addition to it, like this input itself, we had this little what is this magnifying glass thing over to the side. So we'll make the whole form here. Let's also add a class of search form. I typically like to have classes for CSS, IDs just for JavaScript, and that way it kind of keeps it clean. We'll come back down here to our components, and we'll have the search form. And here we're going to do a few things. This will be display flex, which we can just do directly in here. Actually, no, it's not going to be display flex, because I'm going to have that magnifying glass just be position absolute. So let's say position of relative here, and we're going to add some. I think then what I'm going to do, let's get this thing back up here. So we've got the form here. Let's just do a background color of like red, just to see what it is. So you can see we've got that there. Why is there all this extra padding? Is this line space problems? Inside here, got the name of search, the ID of search. It's our only input. Let's just grab that. Well, we're trying to do stuff better, so let's not do that. So we'll say like search input and grab that. We could nest this, but whenever there's no reason to nest, I typically don't, because then you get into trouble. So this is another thing I think I need to reset. So let's come back up top here. We'll say like form element reset. And here I can say input, and we can say font inherit like that. There we go. And then it basically gets rid of a lot of the trouble spot we had. We've got some states too to worry about here, but I think that should be fine. All right. So I come back down here to my search form. Let's look at our search input. And what I want is that little magnifying glass as well to be position absolute here. So let's come in here and let's look for like magnify. If I downloaded the thing, that would work. Magnifying. Where are we? Come on. All right, there we go. So let's grab one of these that looks decent. How about this one? Just paste the SVG directly in there, and there we go. All right, by doing it here, it doesn't have to make a call for it. We'll use the current color, which uses the color of the parent. In this case, the body parent is setting everything to this color. I do want to add some kind of thing here. So let's say like search icon. And then we can style this as well. So we'll come back over here and let's just say search icon. How about this? Icon. And then here we can say a position of absolute. And we can set a width and height here, but we might as well set it when it loads, so that way if there's some kind of problem, it should still load it just that size. So here we're going to say top of 1/2. There's tailwind coming back. Top of 50%. We'll transform, translate Y, which you can just do this directly to if you want to now, but we'll do 50%, and we'll do left. It'll be like, let's do like 12 pixels, something like that. All right, we'll just hard code those values. Now you might remember that the search input, we were also going to have a border radius, and we were going to use our small, rounded small, which if I now hit that, will mess me up. Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay. So there we go. Let's get rid of this background color here. So now if I come in here and I select in here, you can see the cursor's all the way over this way. So we need to change around a couple other things. So I'll have padding, var, and here's where, again, we can use our size smalls. So let's try to actually remember to do that. So space of extra small. We'll do this both ways like that. It might be a little bit big top and bottom. So the nice thing about these vars is you can just calc them. So let's say like times 0.6, something like that, and then it makes it smaller. Obviously that's setting this dynamically and kind of hard coding this, so you'd probably want to just create another variable. The other thing I want though is, so this is top, right, bottom will be the same as this if we were to do all four in here. And then we'll do a var space of like medium or something like that for the left. Maybe we need large, large. And I might actually hard code this to a value. So because I've hard coded this value right here. So I've got 12 plus the 25, right? Yeah, I think so. So we're at 37 plus, let's add an extra 12 to that. Maybe let's just go to 50. So we'll go to 50 pixels. And now when I type over here, it looks like this. You can see that is sitting over this way. Okay, so that should work. And because we used a search type, we get this little X as well. I just noticed I think I'm zoomed in. Sorry, this whole time. All right, I think that's all set there. The way we'd want this. So that we can search and then we can hit enter and it should add this. And you notice that now that this form is submitting, we're getting search equals whatever it happens to be. And we'll use that to eventually filter users and stuff like that. All right, another little thing I'm noticing is we need a border on this whole thing here. And that was our main component or something. Must have just been our ARIA label users. So let's add the border radius. And we'll do rounded medium. And then let's also add some padding to this as well. So we could do padding. And then we could do space of like medium. Something like that. And then let's also do the same thing when it comes to our main here. Let's add some padding. And that way it kind of sits off the side. How do you add the magnifier icon as an app extension? It's an extension in an app. So it's an app called Raycast, and the extension is Iconify, I think. Yeah, I use Raycast a lot for development. One of these days I want to do a video on it, but it's Mac only, so I don't know how useful that will be for others, but one of these days I'll do it. So you can see now we've got this stacked, and because we have this whole area flex end, it's pushing everything down to the bottom except for this user section until we get smaller, and then eventually it needs to wrap. So let's actually do that as well while we're at it. So we'll come back to this top section. We'll make sure that this has a flex wrap on it. So it'll wrap down if it needs to, just like that. Okay, cool. All right, we should probably get a move on here. We've got this border color to start with, so let's go ahead and change that a touch. So we'll say border color is muted, maybe. Oh, gross. So maybe we need to set a border. Let's do 1 pixel solid, because I think it's whatever that's called, where it shows you like the top side is different than the other. All right, so there we go. I'm okay with that right there. The other thing we might want to do is come up to our button and just grab this same thing, and we'll add this here as well. Search input. First time catching you live. Thanks for the videos. Hey, you're welcome. Hey, you're welcome. Yeah, hopefully it's fun. That's kind of really why I've done the channel to start with, is just to practice myself. And I definitely don't see myself as an expert. I'm not a professional developer. And so that doesn't mean I don't know anything, but I think there are a lot of really great developers out there who are teaching like super high level coders. And I really want to just help people who are getting started and kind of doing stuff I wish I would have had 6 months ago. And so that seems to work well for me, and seems like others have enjoyed it as well. So there we go. So now we've got some nice formatting in all this section. All right, next, let's go ahead and load in these buttons dynamically. And the cool thing is, since we've just got these here and they're not complicated, we should be able to just load these in really easily here. So let's go ahead and have a class of button, oops, not a class, an ID. We'll have a button wrapper like that, and then we'll grab access to this in our JavaScript. All right, let's get rid of this. We don't need that anymore. Let's just do a bunch of like selectors. So here, let's have a button wrapper equals, come on, document.query selector button wrapper, like that. All right, and now what we're going to do is on page load, we'll dynamically fill that. So let's have a document or window add event listener, and here we'll add event listeners just to kind of separate this all out. Same here. Really love that. Recommend your channel. Hey, awesome. Glad to hear that, Brian. So what do we want? Add event listener will be DOM. Why am I getting 0 code completion here? Content loaded. This is going to be a real test of what I know. Can I code without any help whatsoever? Now what we want to do is, as soon as we load, I want to go ahead and fetch the data. And then what we're going to do is fill the buttons. And then eventually we'll fill the cards. All right, and by default, I know I'm always going to want to have, inside of here, I'm always going to want to have one that says all here. So I'm going to go ahead and have that depressed too, because it should start with that as all. So I don't like how this is so much bigger than the other one. Sorry, I'm going to have to come over here and change this so that I am emotionally okay. So let's come to my button, and we'll add this up and down. Whoa, that still doesn't look right. Here, let's just randomly hard-code values. You guys good with this? 7, 8, sure. Let's say 7. Okay, back over here. What were we doing? Okay, so let's go ahead and fetch the data. So what we're going to do is I'll make this async, and that way we can come in here and say const data equals await fetch. And what we should do probably is do this all in a huge try catch. Or we could send this to another function that had try catch, but this should make stuff a little bit safer. So let's add all this inside here. All right, and where do we want to fetch? Well, what we want to fetch is this right here. So fetch these users. Oh, yeah, it's okay. We're going to have a catch. Don't you worry about it. We'll console.error the e.message or something. All right, now if I had something wrong here, I think it should. Come on. There we go. So now it's console logging this if we mess up, whereas we should be fine here. Okay. Let's see, a couple other comments. You have your own potential knowledge. Do I take courses in React to upgrade my knowledge? I have taken a couple courses. Honestly, like, I think reading documentation is such a skill that I try to be super diligent about reading documentation and that first. If I do take courses, the way I take courses is I do their project and then I put it down and I try to recreate it with my own spin without looking at the code. And that takes me like 7 times as long. And it takes me 6 years to get through a course. But when I'm done, I feel like I really understand whatever it is. So that's what I typically do. But I've done Net Ninja's course on React and I thought it was awesome. I've done Wes Boss's. I think that's mostly all I've done. But all right, so now that we've got this data, let's go ahead and const. Let's just check if this is okay. So if data dot, do I get, okay. So for instance, if I came in here and said like, not okay. All right, so let's open this up and show you why you do this. So even though this is a correct endpoint, if for some reason I closed the server down and then tried to hit it again, you'll notice, oh, it's going to fail to fetch. I thought it would give you like a 404 or something like that. Maybe what we could do, well, anyhow, basically if it's not okay, if you get like a 404 status or something like that, then let's see what this gives you. I forget what this gives you, but anyhow, if you get a different status, it will actually just keep going as if you have the data. So what I want to do is actually throw a new error and be like, stuff happened. All right. Or yeah. And then I'd probably show something on to the user as well. So that's what that was about. But since my bad example didn't show you, now, even if I have some kind of error here, it should still, it'll throw an error even if I'm getting back faulty data. What's going on here? Data, that's not right. Let's call this res. Stuff happened. Okay, there we go. For some reason it just wasn't loading. Josh Kamal, I think Josh is an amazing teacher. His courses are just expensive, so it's hard when you're learning to like throw down $600 or whatever. But he's not really targeting that, brand new learners anyhow. So he's targeting people who probably need to learn for work. So I understand that. But now what we can do is come in here and grab the data. We can await the res.json, and that should give us back our data. And now let's console log the data. All right. So now I'm getting back the IDs, the names, all this kind of stuff. So now what we need to do in order to fill these buttons is we need to come in here and say, let's kind of give ourselves some steps. Let's get a list, an array of all roles, and then generate a button for each role. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that first. So we'll say like, yeah, let's do that and let's separate that off a little bit. Maybe we move these in. Just trying to get a little separation here. So we'll do like roles equals. Now what we can do is take the data. Actually, what format did that come back in? Let's check. I forget. Okay, so it's an array. Okay, so now we can just grab this array, loop through all these areas. There's a couple different ways we can do this, but probably the best thing would be to just map through them. So we'll say const roles equals data.map. for each person or whatever. We're just going to get the person dot role. And let's just make sure we're getting what we think we are here. So I'll map these over. Undefined. Awesome. What was that thing called? I got to stop removing this console log. Role area. Okay. Areas. Area. Okay. Now, what did I do wrong here? Oh. All right. Here we go. Areas. Okay, marketing, coding, all that kind of stuff. So now there's a couple things we can do, like we can just strip out anything that's the same. Probably the easiest thing would be to grab a new set of all these. I doubt this is very performant. So let's just see if this works first of all. So yeah, so now that gives me a new set of only those items. The other thing we could do is instead of doing this data.map, we could, let's see, we could do a data.reduce. And what we could do is grab the accumulator and the person, the individual thing we're looping through. And then, let's see, I need this to be an empty array to start with. And let's, come on, space out for me. Okay, so now what we can do is we can grab the ACC. What we can say is like does exist. And then I can see if ACC.sum has anything with person in it. Console log that. And we'll come down here. Let's get rid of this console log and this console log. And then we can return the ACC to start with. So, oops. Okay, I think that should work. I don't know what that is. Object is not a function. What am I doing wrong? Yes, these target people already know React CSS. Yes. Video, you set up your console log shortcut. That's just an extension called Turbo Console Log. Yep. Personally took Jonas, I don't know how to say his last name, course on Udemy. He focused on beginners. Hey, awesome. Yeah, there's so many good teachers out there. I think it's just, for me, I've mostly taught not because I think I'm an amazing teacher, but because it forces me to explain myself. So it's helped me. And it's like a wild benefit that anybody else seems to care. You know, nobody was ever supposed to find this channel. It wasn't supposed to be a thing. I don't want to be a YouTuber. That hasn't been something I've aspired to. So I've just kind of stuck there. At some point I probably need to reconsider that if I want to make a more serious run at it. But yeah. Hey, you're welcome, Nivik. All right, let's see what's going on here. With data.reduce, I'm not sure exactly what's going on here. This should be an ACC. Does the person dot area exist? String marketing. What am I messing up here? I don't know. I'm starting to fade here mentally. So let me just go ahead and go back to what we were doing because it's fine. It was working. All right, so now we should have all these things here. We're getting our areas back. We'll call it good. Let's now then generate a button for each of these. So we could do is areas dot for each, or yeah, we could just pass each of these to like a generate filter button function. Areas dot for each. How about that? And then we'll come in here and what we're going to do is write this function. So we'll say function generate filter button. And we're going to get a role for each of these. So here what I want to do is, I guess I could just, yeah, let's just return immediately here. We'll have a button with the class button and aria pressed equals false, although we don't really have to have that. And then we'll have our button here. And then here we will have our role. I probably honestly want to have some kind of like ID on here as well, or some kind of filter. You could do this in a couple different ways. I think the way I'm going to do this though actually is to use the query param to do the filter itself, so that this will be like a kind of a forced refresh of the page, in which case I can just grab the role directly from here. So maybe we'll just leave it like that. So for each of these things, I'm going to generate these. So let's just see what we get here. All right, so nothing. What am I doing wrong here? Generate button fill. Generate filter button. Let's just pass it like roll. Let's see what I get here. Okay. So what's the matter with this? This should be one of these areas, right? I guess we just map over this in case I'm messing this up somehow with a for each. Okay, I guess I was. All right, now this will separate all these by commas, which is just fine. We can just handle that later. So let's get rid of this. And then what we're going to do is take the button container, button wrapper, dot append. Well, we can't really append child because they're not elements. What we can do is add adjacent HTML, button dot append. What's the HTML one? Enter HTML, insert adjacent HTML. There we go. So we'll do before end, and then we're just going to append the button HTML dot join on nothing. So right now it's going to be an array of items. You can see that they all pop in there. Because they're an array of items, when we get them back from here, right here, they're going to be HTML text with a comma in between. So again, if I come inside here, you can see how these all have a comma in between, and so I have to join that array on nothing, and that way it removes that comma. Okay, so now we've added all these in here, and obviously if we click, now we want to handle worrying about that, but let's next maybe work on a card component. And let's see what time it is. It's taking me forever to do this, but just trying to set it up the way I would normally, honestly. Like you can throw something like a design together like this in 20 minutes, you know, if you just want to throw it together, especially if you use something like Tailwind or something that has everything pre-built. But I was trying to hopefully be a help to think through how this is all used. All right, so with that said, let's, I guess we need to add a placeholder, and then let's set up users quickly. We probably won't handle all the searching and filtering, but and honestly, I'd use React for something like this anyhow, but I hope this was at least a help to think through how to do this from JavaScript alone. Search, I forget what this said. Search users. Okay. There we go. I probably want to theme that as well. So let's go to my input. And we'll go color. Will be my muted. I don't know, 5, something like that. Oh, this would be for my placeholder. That's a little too extreme. How about that? Let's just do muted. Okay, let's not do that. Let's do text / 0.5, 0.3, something. Okay. So now I come in here, type, everything's good. I can hit escape because it's a search field, and it will exit automatically. Now I've got all these sections as well popping up. So now what we want to do is we also want to grab any of these items here. Now we can do a couple different things. Now, none of these are going to be in the DOM by default. So for instance, if I tried to do like grabbing all my buttons, so if I did something like constant buttons equals document dot query selector all, now all my autocomplete's back. I'm not sure what's going on there. We'll say button. You might think that we could get access to these. So I could say button.add event listener, click, and then whenever I click, I could just return like console.log e.target. Now here's the thing, when I come inside here, oops, buttons.for each button.add event listener like that. Okay. You might think, like right now, you can see that they're in right here. But if I come in here and I click, you'll notice that none of these are doing anything. Here's the curious thing though. When I click here, suddenly I get an actual console log. Why is that happening? Well, none of these are in the DOM when it loads. So right here, this is just grabbing them immediately when they load. So you can do this in a couple different ways, but because we can basically use a parent and then decide what's clicked inside that parent, what I can do instead is just change this out for button wrapper. And now what we're going to do is explore a little bit of the difference between current target and target. So if I come in here and we add let's call this target is e.target, and then we'll say current is e.current target. So now what I'm going to do is click inside of the button wrapper, and you'll notice that as I click, if I click over here, I'm getting two things. The target, which is the button right here, that's the thing that was clicked, and the current is the button wrapper. That's the difference between those two. So the current target is always the thing you set the event listener against. In this case, I've set it against the button wrapper, so this will always be the current target no matter what. The target, however, the target itself is going to be whatever thing I clicked on. So if I clicked on all, it will be all. If I click on the actual wrapper itself, so like if I can click between here, you can see how the target is the same as the current target. They're both the button wrapper because I've clicked on the actual wrapper itself. So what we need to do then is use this kind of this wrapper, this parent wrapper, and then judge what we've clicked on inside of here. So we can do this in a couple different ways, but probably the easiest thing would just be to say like if e.target, that's the thing clicked on, dot, how do we want to do this? We can just do dot class list. What am I? Yeah, dot class list. Man, my thing is being weird. Could I do it like this? I think. All right, so let's try this. If I click in here, yeah, it says a button. If I click over here, it says a button too. Okay, cool. How do I get this target for just 1 second here? Probably I wouldn't want to just have a button because what I really want, so I don't really want to know the class, although I should be able to remember how to do that off the top of my head. But what I really want here is I think what I want is the role. So I want a data role here, or area, whatever this is supposed to be, area to equal whatever this is. And that way I can use that data attribute also for the query params if we ever get around to doing that. So what I would do in this case is set this to the role. And now each of these buttons should have a role on them. So they have area marketing, area design, whatever. Let's also call these areas just to kind of keep things consistent. So let's come back over here. Now what I can do is check against that. So e.data set dot, what do we call that? Area. So if it has that, it should say button. If it doesn't, it shouldn't. So this should not say button. This should say a button, right? Except in this case, what we could do is have a console log the e.target.dataset.area, right? So if I click in here, you can see it says marketing. So anyhow, it's going to basically loop through all of those. Now, the other thing we can do here is if it's clicking on any of these, then what I want to do is I want to clear all ARIA pressed, and then I want to apply ARIA pressed to the button. Can't watch. Want to say your videos are great help. Hey, you're welcome, Daniel. That's very kind. Me too. I do have an Astra course coming up. It's just taking a lot longer. I've had a lot of family in town, and that's made it very difficult to kind of make the headway I'd like to. My goal is by the end of the year to have the early access launched, and I'm still on track for that, but my goal was that, and I was going to launch like November 1st, and that didn't happen. So let's go ahead and write like a function. It's called like clear all pressed. And here what we're going to do is grab, because these buttons are not going to be accessible here, we can do this in a couple different ways, but like we could take all the child nodes and then just say for each. I think maybe this is what we should do. So what we're going to do is grab the button, wrapper, grab all the children because some of them won't be in there, right? And then we'll say button dot remove attribute. And this would be aria pressed. So let's see if this works. So we'll say clear all pressed like this. I had no idea I was going to spend all this time in the stream setting up all this stuff. I mean, I was going to like think through stuff, but remove button dot remove attribute. Child elements children dot for each. Can I do this? What does children give me? Let's check. Console.log button wrapper dot children child nodes. Okay, that's not what I want. Children. Okay, now we're getting somewhere, but this is just a node list. So can I just what if I do this? Still just give me these node lists. Let's console.log the button wrapper. Let's see what we're getting in here. Okay, so if I click anywhere inside here, I should get this button wrapper. Let's console.dir it so I can see the actual object. Click here, got this. Where's my children? I forget how this stuff is laid out. Children. So why does that not work? It's like this right here for each child. It's just a list, right? Aria pressed. Okay, maybe I have to do this. Child nodes. That's not what I want. Huh. I don't remember how to access those in a way that allows me to access them as elements. So I guess we'll just forget about that for now. Okay, that's fine. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to grab the buttons. Actually, let's just go document, not document, button wrapper. Query selector all. Anything with a button class. And we'll run off the back of this for each button. We're just going to button dot remove attribute. And we'll remove the aria pressed. And now if I click any of these, it should remove all of them, right? So that's what we want. Next thing we need to do is apply it to that specific one. So we can take the e.target.dataset, or e.target, it's the thing that was clicked, .add .set attribute. Set attribute, right? Now it's not working again. Aria pressed to true. Okay, so now if I come in here, I click here, now it sets to that, set to that. Now the other thing is, I guess we had it to where you could like click off of it. So the other thing we can do is say if the e.target, so in other words, what we can say is deselect and move to all. So the only things that are going to trigger this are these, like this one here actually won't, which is another thing we probably need to handle. Well, I guess we should just add that, right? So area would be all. Let's just add that right here. So that way it'll be part of those. So we could say data area equals all. And that way when we click here, it should also trigger that as well. Now what we can do is say if e.target.dataset, we just ask the thing clicked on. Okay, if e.target, we got to do this up top, I think. So yeah, here's where we have to do it. So we have to apply aria pressed only if it's not already applied. So like is applied or something like that, const is pressed. We could say e.target.has attribute. aria pressed. I guess this already has false, so let's just remove it like that. So now what we can do is console log this here. Let's come inside here and let's click on this. So it's false. So now we can use this false to basically say if is pressed, then we're going to set this. Actually, let's just do it right inside here. True is pressed. Then we're going to set this to false. If it's not, then we'll set this to true. Pure JavaScript, yeah. Yep, we're just using pure JavaScript, taking our time. So if I click on this, now it should do this. If I re-click on this, now it should set that to false. The other thing, though, I want is if is pressed. So maybe we should just wrap this whole thing, now that I think about it. So we'll say if is pressed, then we're going to wrap this here. So if it's already pressed, let's just change this to false. And then we want to set the e dot. How do we want to do this? Because we want to set the one that is already in here. I guess we could grab reference to this up top because it's already going to be there. But maybe what we do is just do another call here, document.query selector. We're going to look for the data area equals all. And we'll set the attribute of aria pressed to true on that one. So if I'm in here, oh, come on. If it is pressed, then if it's not pressed. All right, so true. Okay, so if I click here, that should be good. If I click again, oh, come on. I'm making this way too hard on myself. Has attribute aria pressed. No, nothing is working in here. Okay, let's back out of this and restart. Sometimes you just need that. All right, so I want to see if it's pressed. So let's first of all check that. So we'll come in here. It's pressed, false, 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 false. Okay. This one should be true and it's not. So I think it's because it needs to be true Boolean. So let's now do this. It's false. Seems like React. Nope, this is just vanilla JavaScript. It probably should be React if I was doing this for real, but there is a little trick you can do here. I'm trying to remember what it is. I'm not going to remember right now. Okay, so let's just do this. Let's not worry about deselecting them for now, since we already had it working before. And we'll just go back to wherever that's at. In fact, let's just, go over here to the timeline. Which I don't know if you know this, but you've got a timeline here where you can just jump backwards in VS Code directly. Look at all the dumb stuff we did. Yeah, that looks right. So let's go back to this one. So we'll come in here and just restore the contents. Okay, so now this should work. Oh no. Did I not go to the right one? Let's try again. Alright, press 2. Maybe it was this one. Restore contents. Ah! Let's restore these contents. Come on. Alright, there we go. Come back to all. All these work. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I think that'll work. Okay. Obviously, we've got some other things to do here, like update the query param, because I was going to use this to filter stuff up here. But we haven't done that yet either. We haven't put our users in, which was the thing we were going to do. We have been slow today. All right, let's go ahead and just do these users and be done with this for now. And I don't know how I'll come back to this just because it's taking me forever, but hopefully this was helpful to somebody. I don't know that it showed me a lot about myself. Positive at least. Let's come in here to our users and let's just create a user card. So this will probably be an article since it's like a little self-contained unit. Here we're going to have two sections. We'll have the image on this side. So for right now, I'll just go to my images and go to like head1.jpg, and this will be something. It'll be the user's name eventually. Then let's go ahead and just stack up the rest of this. This would be in a grid, probably small, or honestly probably extra small, the way we set that up earlier. And this would be probably an H3 since that kind of the header is an H2. We could just add like Layla, whatever that was. And then the location, we could do Troy, Michigan. And then we're going to have a tag list down here. So we could have flex extra small with flex wrap. And here we might have a bunch of different things. All of these would be in their own little pill shapes. So we could say pill. I would probably name this something else, like it'd be an actual component. All right. Like this. Oh, come on. But we could say like clothes, coffee, stuff. All right, there we go. So now let's go ahead and style this. We call this grid small. We should probably also give this a name, so we could say like user. Nope, not that. Class user card. This class John Deere. This class could be user image. Class could be user deets. All right, so let's grab those and let's user card. Probably also need to grab the wrapper here. All right, we'll call that. Jump this in here. I guess we could do some of this work right here. Yeah, flex small, maybe. We'll stack those up. Right now, it won't really super matter, but this could be align items flex start, and we'll call that good. Okay, user card here itself. How do we want this thing to look? So we'll say background color here. We've got my muted. Muted. Like this. We'll have padding of our. Let's see, I've got some padding somewhere here. Say padding extra small. See, the user card itself needs to be flex of small as well, probably, or extra small. That should set these next to each other like that, which they do. That's good. The other thing is for these images, I'll probably just set a width here of something like 60. And we'll do a height of 60 as well, or you could do aspect ratio as well, but might as well have it loaded in here properly. We have a user image now, so let's go ahead and use that as well. So we'll come over here and add our border radius of rounded full. That will be a, if I can spell, border radius. That'll work. I think this is a little too intense, so we could do like 0.2, 0.3 is what I think, something like that. This whole thing could also have a border radius. This could be my medium. I think that works. This could also have some padding. Maybe it's just going to be up and down, so we could do block. There we go. What else do we have? Name. All this stuff is kind of stacked up. Maybe what we could do is come up here to our utilities, and we could do like just grab my H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, and set the line height here to 1.1. So I think got some of my trouble here. Yep. Okay, then I'm going to come over here to my user deets. And here we'll grab the H3, and we'll say font size. I guess that would be the same, wouldn't it? Small. Font size, small. Is this even working? No, it's not. Okay. I thought I had an H through there. User deets, H3. Let's check. Not really sure. I think I can just do that, maybe. Guess nothing today. Okay, that's fine. We'll just say, let's see, these can be in their own little section here. So let's maybe just group these off like this. That stacks them at least. Class, we could say user location. And here, let's set this font size quite a bit smaller. So font size, here we go. Let's take our pill. Let's do the same thing here. So these will have a border of 1 pixel, solid, accent. I'll do padding here. Let's just do like 5 pixels. 2 pixels and 5 pixels. Border radius here will be full. Radius. Let's see what that looks like. It's getting there. Close-ish. Let's come back over here. This extra small still doesn't seem small enough for me. So let's back this thing off a little bit. Let's come back over here to Utopia. Let's grab a smaller version than whatever we did before. So how about this right here? Yeah, that's smaller. And let's see if that helps a little bit. Sure. All right, so that's generally kind of what we're looking for. We're going to load these in just like that. And I think, I'm guessing like you select one, or maybe that's just the hover state. So let's add a hover state to the whole card. So I don't need anything for this, I don't think. What we can do is say if it is hovered, then we'll add a border. Maybe what we should do is have border, 2 pixels, solid, transparent. We can change the border color here then to my accent, maybe. We'll also then have a box shadow of, let's just do like, looks like maybe 2 pixels, 4 pixels. Let's do 10 pixels to blur, and we can use the muted. Or if we want to go crazy, something like that. And then we can do transition on the box shadow. 200 milliseconds, ease in and out. All right, so if I come over here, I mean, I've seen crazier things. Let's do it on everything so that we get the border in there too. And let's back this off a touch more here. Something like that. All right, I feel pretty happy with that. We obviously haven't filtered any of this stuff yet either, but now let's just go ahead and grab this. Now that we've got a sample card, this article right here, we can get rid of this HTML, and we'll just take the data.map over each data point and pass this to generate cards, which I should be able to just pass it directly like this. I'm not sure what this is. Come on. Like that. Oh, what did I mess up? Oh, deal with it. Okay, there we go. So I should be able to pass this to generate card HTML or something like that, which will be a function we write up here. So we'll say function generate card HTML. This will take in data, and what we'll do is return out of here a string that looks very much like this. Now, it would be helpful if we had access to this data, and we do, so let's just use it right over here. So I'm going to grab this right here, and we'll just say this needs to be my data dot headshot. And let's go ahead and grab this like this. Actually, let's add this in here so I can just copy this multiple times throughout. Okay, class, that's fine. Alt will be whatever the user name is. So here we could say const full name equals data dot name dot first, and then space, and we'll do data dot name dot last. And then I can grab the full name, and we can just say full name here. We'll do full name here as well. What else do we have? This location will be data dot location. Flex wrap. So for each of these, what we'll do is we'll do the data dot tags dot map. Can I do this directly in here? I think so. We can just have the tags here. They'll just say pill. Okay. These will just be paragraphs then with class of pill. Which I'm guessing these are things you could also sort by if you wanted to in a real thing. That's not a pill, that's a paragraph. All right, like that. And then inside here would be the tag, whatever the thing happens to be. Okay, I think that's right. Anything else I need to change? I don't think so. Okay, so I should get all this back as generated HTML in a string, and I should be able to fill that card. So I can say card user wrapper dot insert adjacent HTML before end, and I can insert the card HTML. I guess I got to join it here too, right? Join like that. All right, what happened? Can't read properties of null insert adjacent HTML. What's going on here? Okay, we've got all this stuff. Pill. Let's get rid of this in case that's the problem. Nope. Okay. So this should be fine. Oh, this is insert adjacent HTML. Right? This isn't yelling at me, is it? 71.5. I get that, but what's the problem? Let's check in here, see if it gives me anything better than that. Let's see. Missed the and. Is it okay to write class twice? No, it's not. So sorry. Thanks for everyone for helping with that, wherever that was at. Class user deets. Correct. Can't do that. Okay. There we go. At least I'm getting this stuff back. Let's come back down here and see what I'm messing up. Before end. Card HTML, join on nothing. If you can see what I'm doing, let me know. I'm getting this back. In your HTML. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. We're getting so close here. Card.join. Insert adjacent HTML. Users wrapper. Is this not a thing? Let's check that. Ah, user wrapper. Okay. That was dumb. Let's also then make sure that when we map over all this, we join on nothing to get rid of those. Okay, so there we go. A semi-finished kind of project that still needs to be joined. Let's see down here. Join here on nothing. Okay, cool. So let's also come over here and make sure that this is a flex wrap. So it should wrap down. All right, there we go. All the people are there. That took forever, way longer than it should have. The other thing we could do here, if we wanted to, we could set this up. Let's just get rid of this and come back to my card wrapper. And here I'm going to change this to grid. And then we'll do gap or grid template columns, auto fit. Let's see, how do I want to do this? Min, max, auto fit, columns. I always forget how to do this if I haven't done it in a while, and I have not done it in a while, so actually let's do this. So what this is doing is repeating. That's right, that was the keyword I forgot, is repeat. So it will basically set these up as automatic columns like that. You see how they're set up that way? And then we just need to add a gap here of our like space, I don't know, small. So now they'll be spaced across. So as it has room, it will add extra rows, but it just does that all automatically. The advantage here is they stay the exact same size, kind of across from each other. Let's see this. Let's come back over here. These are in this flex wrap class. So just add an extra class to it. So if I come back over here, we'll add a class here of pill wrapper. And then I should be able to come down here. And we'll add pill wrapper. Align items flex start. All right, there we go. And that way, even if it gets bigger, they're still fine. All right, I think that's mostly done-ish. That we took our time on all this other stuff and it kind of distracted us from everything else. But ideally, what I would do here is change this to where when you click on one of these, it sorts by them. And the way I would do that is come over here. And I'm totally not going to do this right now. Do you understand? But what we're going to do is grab the access to the URL query params. Actually, yeah. Let's get the URL. Let's see what this is. All right, is this what I want? Yeah, so now what I want is I want the search params. Actually, let's just get this. Object from entries URL.search params. Make sure this gets me what I think. We're not going to do this. I'm just going to show you what would happen if we did do this, for instance. Or is this already? Let's see. Let's see what this gives us. Size 0. What do I want here? Isn't there like a new, you can do like a new, it's a URL dot search params. This gives me my URL search params. Oh, there's nothing in here. size 0. Huh. Let's const search or params equals new search params. Isn't there like a search params thing? So let's check this out. Search params. URL. Document declaration. Okay. So I just need to tack search params on the end of that. We call these params directly. Okay, then I can do like all params or whatever. And I should be able to now do, because I think it's a map, I can do object.from entries. And I can pass in my params here. Maybe. It's got a good chance. Okay, something's happening. And it's that I have no search params. Let's come back over here. Let's just do the way the example showed. So we'll do params.get search and see what this gives us. Why is this saying we don't have any search params? And yeah, that's what I would do. And clearly I can't do it. So maybe we should just call the stream good. But so what I would do is update this to be like area or something like that. And this would be design or marketing or whatever. And then if this is .get and this was area, I'm not sure what I'm messing up here, but get.name, params.get.name. So yeah, this should work. And this would be area. I'll just call this all params. If you see what I'm doing here, let me know. href, maybe. The example here said location, but I don't know. Oh, now I'm getting them all. So I did something wrong. Okay, so now what we could do, let's try this again. Because I think you should be able to do object.from entries, and then you can pass it the params, right? Yeah, and I'm getting them all. And then I should be able to just destructure these directly. So I can say area like this, and this would be area. And now this should give me design. Okay, so then what I would want is like search or something like that as well. So what I would do is come in here and just say like filter by these to start with. So for instance, all these roles, that's fine, but this card HTML, what I would do is then, I guess maybe I'd say like if area, I would data.filter like the card or person or whatever, person who's person.area equals the area. That could have gone better. And then I would pass that along to .map generate card HTML, I think. Okay, so there we go. So you come in here to marketing, and then basically you'd have to update this as well. And those are all the marketing people. So again, I'm totally not going to do this, but let's say you were going to, and you came in here and clicked on button to add event listener. Where am I at? Okay, right here. So when you press these things, the other thing you would do is set the area. You probably like, I guess, set a new location. Could you do that? I don't know. You do like window.location, new URL. You'd have to account for any search terms too. So there's a decent amount of complexity here left. So I really won't do it. The basic what you would do is set an area in the param. And that way when you clicked, you'd have to also account for all too. So if you set this to all, then you would just bypass it. So probably what you do here is, where was that? Down here, you'd say if area equals all, then you would do this. Otherwise, you would do this. So that way all would always be everything. I guess you'd also have to account for the fact that this won't start that way. So I don't know. So you could say if array doesn't equal all, I don't know, and figure that out. But basically you load it in the URL bar. The other thing then is you'd also use this search so that when you would submit the form, that this query program right here, search, would be a part of it as well, where you could actually filter immediately. Honestly, what you get back from like the server, since we're just doing this locally here, you'd do that as well. So that's what I meant to get to, but we got stuck up on UI and talking through like how to structure all this stuff. So anyhow, I hope that was helpful. I feel like this stream didn't go great, but hopefully it was helpful for somebody out there. And yeah, I don't know, Christina. Thanks for joining. All right, well, hopefully that was helpful to somebody. I appreciate you guys' time, and I will catch you later. Thanks for watching, and happy coding.